Good afternoon. How is everybody today? Hot? Getting to be that time of year, huh? Seems like, about mid-August, I sort of hit that tolerance point. Okay, when is it going to be October? And it's 2 months, so I think we're getting close to that. But at least we've had a nice spring with some wetter weather, so that's relief for all of us. Things we're going to talk about today. I'll come back to WTGA in just a moment. You're wondering, what in the heck is he thinking, right? Well, good. That's good. We'll come back to that. Talk a little bit about the relays and some communication efforts that we've been making, what we've learned with some feedback about those thus far, some actions that we're considering, and some more work that's coming. All hands on deck, just referring to the fact we have a lot going on. No surprise, right? But just sort of a review. A lot of people ask me about facilities progress. Where are we? What's going on with those? What about the plans for the education center now that the legislature has provided partial funding? So I'll just provide an update on those things. And I will talk about the legislative outcomes, at least the brief, the high-level review of how we did. And then come back to closing with the road ahead, and more specifically the major elements of the institutional scorecard for next year. Now, they're still in draft form, but we believe they're pretty close to final draft. Not much variation from what we've had this year. We've changed the focus in a couple of cases to indicate some progress, but just want to give a sense of the priorities at the institutional level for FY16, and then if we have time, we'll certainly try to get to questions, okay? All right. So anybody have any idea what WTGA stands for? Dr. Murray, you're shaking your head. Bad choice on my part. Thank you very much. Well, you all know one of the things that we're trying to do with the focus on small group communication, specifically through Relay, is to provide an opportunity for recognition. We all typically say, particularly when we survey each other, that, we need more recognition. There are really great things going on here every day. Our people are doing great things, but we don't stop to communicate those frequently enough. We don't say thank you enough. And while we do some of that at the institutional level, and there's external recognition, like we just had the 6 faculty members who are recognized with the Regents Outstanding Teaching Awards. We sent out the communication about that. There are marvelous opportunities every day for all of us, pretty much, to just recognize, say thank you to people around us. So this is my version of that. I kind of think about town halls for me as a big relay communication, okay? And so this is an opportunity for me to do some recognition. Now, this is not a huge institution-wide program. I'm not setting up nominations to come forward. This is a way for me to reach out and touch a few people that I see doing great work. And so again, it's not comprehensive. I know I'll probably exclude some people I shouldn't. But really, what I'm trying to do is to set an example that there's an opportunity for all of us every day to say thank you to our colleagues, to say, wow, that's great work. Thank you so much. I mean, we can do it by one work group kind of banding together and sending an email from the manager to somebody else who helped that group out, move their agenda forward. We can do it in relay meetings to say, hey, thanks so much for doing that. You really helped us out, or happy birthday. A lot of different ways to do this. So, these are the President's Way to Go Awards, okay? And so, little simple things. Andy McNeese is always giving me a hard time about this recognition thing. Some of you know Andy. And he said, David, we need to do a better job of giving people cookies when they do good things. And that's kind of his euphemism for providing recognition. He said, you need to come up with a better way to do that from the standpoint of the president. So we developed this idea. And what this is it's a shirt. It's in one of our blue colors in our logo. It's got the UTMB logo on it, as our polo shirts typically do. And on the sleeve, it says President's WTGA. And it's not huge bold letters, so hopefully it won't be too embarrassing. But, you know, I hope the people who receive the recognition will enjoy the shirts and have an opportunity to wear them. And by the way, I've been encouraging people to wear polo shirts, particularly in the summer. You know, unless there's a specific reason or locally it's required you wear a tie or formal attire. You know, I mean, it's so hot around here. Please be comfortable, be professional. We have guidelines for attire. But I think polo shirts are a great way to look professional and still be comfortable in our environment. All right, so most of these people are here today. They don't know why I invited them. All right, so hopefully they'll be a little bit surprised. So let me start with the list. First, on the left side, Roger Miller, who works in surgery as one of our minimally invasive surgical coordinators, and Officer John Siverand rescued a lady from a burning truck that had turned over on Broadway. Yeah. Putting themselves obviously at risk, and helped extricate the lady from the truck and essentially saved her life. Officer Bowen encountered a patient of ours who was actually just about to jump off one of our structures in an attempt to commit suicide, and talked that patient off the ledge and grasped the patient, pulled the patient back so that patient avoided harm because of his very thoughtful actions. He didn't rush in and just talked, did all the things that we're supposed to do to talk someone down. And he's also being recognized with the UT Police Life Saving Award. But what I'd like for these individuals to do is to come on up. I'm going to have you stand up here. I apologize. You'll probably be a little embarrassed. But come on up, and we have shirts for you. So if you're here. So I know that Roger's on vacation, but I think maybe his manager was coming. Rye, are you here? Daniel's here. Okay, Rye's here. Very good. Okay. All right. Thank you, sir. Yeah, congratulations, John. There you go. Thank you very much. Yes, sir. Thank you. All right. Bye. Thank you so much. Thanks for coming. So you guys stand up here. Now, these next two guys, many of you know if you're involved in the clinical enterprise, George Gaddy and Carlos Clark, and they've done just some amazing work with Epic and other of our IT systems. And I'm never, what is it that Donna Sollenberger says? You know, the bad thing about being an optimist is you're never pleasantly surprised. I'm never really surprised by what these guys are capable of doing, but they did something recently that we really hadn't done as an institution before. They helped implement Epic at Angleton Danbury. Well, sure, it's a hospital. We have a hospital. But what about the staff there? They've only recently become part of UTMB, and the physician staff, while they're affiliated with us as members of the medical staff, aren't our employees. So this was a totally new approach. They spent an incredible amount of time organizing the rollout of Epic, doing all the training, and then I think they spent 36 hours of every 24-hour day of the initial weekend of the implementation there on site, encouraging those involved. So, Carlos, would you and George come up here, please? I'd like to recognize you. Thank you very much. Thank you, George. Thank you. Really appreciate it. Nobody's turned too red yet, so I guess I'm doing okay. So, all right. So, Christine Wade and Scott Lee. You know, we heard a lot about the science side of the Ebola effort, a lot of recognition of our scientists in the GNL, but what these two, and granted they put together, worked with a team, but they essentially organized our approach to our biocontainment care unit, which is over next to the emergency room. They've helped organize our plans for building out the capabilities of that unit, And they essentially are responsible for us now being recognized as one of the regional Ebola treatment centers in the country. And again, like all of these, they worked really hard. They put forward extraordinary effort. They never complained. They were always positive, and their actions largely led to our capabilities being improved and our success over the course of the concern about Ebola. So, Scott, would you come up, please? Christine, I think I saw Christine up in the audience.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Thank you very much. Nice work.
Thank you.
All right, Jake Wolf and Jim Victor. Now, you guys can't, well, you probably can if you've ever built a house or renovated one. Imagine what these two go through with all the construction projects. And Jenny Seeley is pretty much on time, going to be finished on time. We're going to occupy it when we said we would. The Victory Lakes Hospital, the Lake City Hospital, is a little behind now. We're working through some issues with the contractor. But, you know, these are our principal liaison officers with the UT system that really drives and oversees construction. They work with all of us to make sure that the right things happen at the right time, that concerns are appropriately addressed. And these two guys, to me, are amazing because they never complain. They always smile. They're always accessible. They always manage to put together the right group of people to come up with good solutions for what seemed to be vexing problems at the time. So I want to recognize Jim and Jake for their marvelous work, all they've done. Guys, come on up. Sorry, Jim, I didn't mean to make you work so hard. I apologize.
Thank you, Dr. Keller.
Yes, sir. You okay?
Appreciate that a lot. Yes, sir.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jake. Great work.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Okay. Gerald Cleveland. You all remember we had the Living Well Challenge, and UTMB actually won the award, the Traveling Trophy, for the highest participation rates this year. Now, I think Gerald knew that we were all extraordinarily competitive and that we wanted to win the trophy, but he and his team put together the approach that actually allowed that to happen. These things are important. In fact, I think we're probably going to have a question about these sorts of things later. But, you know, the healthier we are as a group of employees, the better we do, the more capable we are. So we're always thinking about how we encourage each other to make good choices in our behaviors that impact our health. And Gerald leads that effort and has just done a marvelous job. So, Gerald, I want to recognize you, particularly for the Living Well Challenge success. And everybody who participated.
Thank you.
So,
That's right. And you got your T-shirt and blanket.
I did. Thank you very much. The nursing group that's here on the left are recognized by the Good Samaritan Foundation for their outstanding work, particularly in nursing education. So Tom Mendez, Yolanda Davila, Maureen Wilder, Jacqueline Savoda, and Rebecca Watson-Campbell. I don't think all of them could be here today, but again, signifying the marvelous excellence we have among the faculty, just among the latest to be recognized for incredible work. You know a little bit about these five, and they're not out there pointing to themselves as being excellent. They're just doing really good work that improves the quality of education we offer to our students. So I thought it appropriate to recognize them for that effort and that recognition that's coming from outside. So I don't know if any of you guys are present today, but if you are, come forward. Okay, there's a few. Yeah, I see them. Okay, great. Oh. Should I get the right one here? Sure. That goes to Tom. Yep. I think this is yours. Yes, ma'am. Okay, thank you very much. Congratulations. All right. The fellow who keeps us out of trouble when we have emergencies, Mike Mastrangelo. Now, some of you know Mike, many of you don't. But Mike essentially oversees our preparations for emergency events. And so when we have something like Tropical Storm Bill, Mike never sleeps. He's up all the time, monitoring the weather reports, putting together different groups, keeping the emergency management team moving forward with critical information that's important for good decision making. And so since he works behind the scenes and works so hard and always generates success, I wanted to recognize him for that work, not only for Tropical Storm Bill, but for all of the other efforts that you facilitated, Mike. We appreciate your efforts to protect us, so thank you so much. And it's not your fault they got the rain forecast wrong, right? Finally, Lauren Shear. I figured Lauren would be really embarrassed by this sort of recognition, but that's okay. Our entire legislative affairs team works really, really, really hard. Dr. Raymer, Laura Smith, Lauren, and I could recognize all of them, particularly considering the outcomes in the legislature. But I heard a lot in particular about Lauren's efforts. She focused most of her time on the legislative affairs involving the correctional managed care operation. And she facilitated meetings among legislators, their staff members, executive director, the medical director of TDCJ, Mr. Livingston, and his entire staff, and our folks, to move that agenda forward. Much of the original budget that was created didn't include some of the things that we need, particularly our employees needed in terms of support for salary increases. And Lauren, to a large extent, at least from my perspective, drove that forward, took it as a personal cause, and made it happen. And we had a really good outcome because of that. And so on behalf of all of our folks out there in the CMC, I wanted Lauren to receive this particular recognition. Thank you. Great work. All right, so please, one more hand for this entire group. Thank you all. We appreciate what each of you do for us every day. Tremendous work. And so thank you, thank you, thank you. Hopefully that wasn't too painful for any of them. And someone else to recognize, Justin Drake. Any of you know Justin? One of the students in the graduate school? Yeah, marvelous young man. I've had an opportunity to get to know him a little bit better because of his work as a leader among the student government organizations. We had the opportunity to nominate him to serve as the student regent for the UT system. The chancellor supported that nomination, sent that and several others to the governor, and Justin was selected. So he's the second UTMB student in the last few years to be selected as the student regent. And so we're very, very proud of Justin. We're very proud of all of our students. I know he'll do a marvelous job representing students from across the UT system. So if you see Justin, please tell him congratulations. He's going to have to do an awful lot of work, but I think he'll enjoy it. And I know the students will be well represented by Justin just based on the way that he's conducted himself here and his interest in student affairs. So congratulations to Justin. All right, relays. We kicked off this effort, and I know some people feel that we forced it. We're still accommodating it. But basically, it looks like we're making significant progress in terms of improving communications among members of our staff, and that really is our goal. We've gotten, as I said, some good feedback about how we do this. So, we send out this little communication sheet to managers. It has topics of interest for consideration. It's not something that is prescriptive, but not everybody understands that yet. And so, why do I have to talk about this? It doesn't really pertain to my people. Okay, well, don't. And why do I have to do this at 3:30 on Tuesdays? You don't. You can do it any time. and incorporate it into an existing meeting. A number of our managers who are already conducting regular staff meetings just have pulled that information sheet and are relaying appropriate items on the sheet to their people. Probably the greatest amount of feedback has come around the idea that sitting down with employees, managers, supervisors sitting down together, has facilitated communication among groups. Now, some groups already have great communication, hasn't really added much, but others this wasn't happening. And so we've gotten a lot of positive feedback about the opportunity for more significant exchanges and also the opportunity to raise questions, which is what we really wanted. Now, what we've done with a survey, what our marketing communications team has done, is just surveyed the relay leaders. And we've had about a 75% positive response. People think this is working pretty well. 25% said, nah, it needs to be significantly improved, and provided feedback. So we're taking some actions with regard to that feedback, trying to incorporate some of those ideas. We'll know more. We're going to do an all-employee survey coming in, I believe it's September, to take a look at people's ideas about what we've done with this so far and hopefully get some more feedback that will help us further improve. And so, you know, this can take many forms over the course of time. Again, it's not meant to be so prescriptive that it becomes detrimental to moving a work group forward. It's designed to allow us to begin to explore ways that we can improve communications at the work unit level. Now, some of you know that Dr. Jacobs, Ms. Sollenberger, Ms. Sadro, and myself are soon going to start making rounds for relays. In fact, I've already kind of planned to do some, and somehow people found out and they changed the date and time on me. Can't imagine why that would happen. My approach, and you know, Dr. Jacobs may have a different one, Ms. Sollenberger, Ms. Sadro, but it's to sort of be the guest relayer, if that's appropriate for the work unit. So just kind of come in and do this the way that I do it with our folks up in the president's office, and provide an opportunity to ask questions about things that are happening, things that would otherwise be relayed up the line, if you will. I'm sure I'll be asked questions I don't know the answer to, so it'll give me an opportunity to learn something and provide feedback also. So I'm looking forward to that. I hope that people will stop changing dates and times so I actually can participate as a guest relayer. And I would love to get some feedback, people's thoughts about, you know, what's working and what's not as we move this forward. A couple of other things. We've got the print version of Impact coming out next week. We had stopped printing Impact and gone to something online a few years ago. And we got a lot of feedback that says, no, you know, online's great. There's an opportunity to drill down, but we really like having that print edition. We are interested in that, and we want to focus on people stories. So sort of like the WTGA, what's happening with our people here? Let's spotlight a few. Let's talk about some of the good things, some of the accomplishments, so that we all have a chance to learn more about our colleagues at UTMB. So I think we're going to print 5,000 copies. They'll be out, Steve shaking his head, next week, and we'll have them on little racks that will be located around the institution. And we'll ask, also there's a link, I believe, that so you can print an additional copy if 5,000 is not enough, and post that around a department or a work unit space or in another appropriate spot so that people can access the stories. And we'll see how that goes too. Again, with the idea of facilitating communication, facilitating all of us knowing what's happening at UTMB and about people who are doing great things. And finally, we're working on a web redesign of the iUTMB page, and that's going to be end of the year. Is that end of the calendar year? We're looking forward to, again, make it more accessible, a little easier, a little more welcoming format. So again, trying to improve our efforts towards improving communications. And again, if you have thoughts about those things, please let us know. We'll try to incorporate those thoughts into our plans as we move forward. All right, so what's going on with clinical facilities and other facilities? Well, this is the artist's conception of what the renovated John Seeley will look like when we complete it. Have any of you seen this before? Okay, a few of you have. Yeah, Ms. McGrew, thank you. I'm glad you've seen it. That's good. Okay, so what do you notice about it? Well, the facade's quite different, right? And one of the reasons we're doing this, you know, we've learned with and this happened with the prison hospital building a few years ago, these are brick veneer walls have tiebacks, which are basically metal pieces that hold them to the underlying structure. And over the course of time, particularly in our climate, those tiebacks deteriorate. And if you don't go in and redo those, eventually those veneer walls will fall. And so that's one of the reasons we have these construction pathways up around some of the hospital. We don't really see a lot of that happening. We've put up some special substances to hold the brick in place just in case. But we know if we don't take care of that, we'll have a huge issue sometime in the future. But as we started looking at this, we started looking at the windows, which are attached and part of that brick veneer external skeleton. They need to be redone also. Well, if we're going to redo the windows, what of the interior pieces need to be redone, particularly if we want the fit and finish of the John Sealy to match the Jenny Sealy? We already knew that we had some issues. For example, we know we need to change the infant special care unit. It is not at all what it needs to be in terms of having a physical space that provides a sort of opportunity to deliver the care we want to deliver. Our nurses do a great job. Our staff do a great job. They deliver great care. But to get it right in the future, we need better facilities. So this set of renovations will start sometime next year and is designed to not only take care of that external set of issues, but also move the renovations forward. So essentially, our rooms match across all of our hospital towers. So very excited to get that underway. The Sealy and Smith Foundation really helped get that project across the line with a $75 million pledge for us. So very pleased about that. You all can see the Jenny Sealy, how it's coming along. I'll come back to that in just a moment. We are doing some pretty significant renovations of some spaces at Angleton Dienbury, particularly on the outpatient clinic side, to provide more access, to make room for a few more physicians, to improve access to care. So very excited that those are coming along. We'll have space for some new physicians pretty quickly. Those are sorely needed in that community. I think will be welcome additions. And finally, the League City Hospital is coming along. As I mentioned earlier, we've got a few issues in terms of how the contractor is managing that job. We're working through those, but still looking forward to having that open sometime late in the fall or early winter of the next fiscal year. So excited to see those things come along as we planned. Now, this is just sort of thrown in for fun. Remember these pictures, or remember these particular scenes? So June of 2012, and the site preparations. 13, the platform had essentially come out of the ground. Here we are in 14 with the tower structure and the CSW being built out. And here we are close to external completion now. You know, just think about a year from now, we'll have seen patients in that building for about 4 months. So even though we thought this huge project and wondered if we'd ever get it off the ground and move it forward, we have. We've done well on that front. It's exciting to see it come together and to think about the tremendous opportunities we have to move care forward with our patients and develop new models of care in this new facility. All right, so I think I've shown this slide before. This is Market Street along here. Here's Leavenhall, where we are. Here's the Nursing and Health Professions School here. So you get an idea of the campus. The hospital is here. And this is that big infrastructure project to change the steam lines to hot water lines, to change the connections, to build new central plants that support the chillers and also generation of some electricity. So this is where we are. How many of you now, when you've crossed Market Street, have had to remind yourself to look both ways again? Yeah, me too. So, but that's a great thing. It's nice to see that come along. Most of that's done. A couple of people from the community have asked me, what's that new hospital going up by the field house? Well, it's not a new hospital. It's the new chilling plant or new east plant, and that's coming along nicely. You see, I believe it's topped out, and we're beginning some of the exterior finishes now. So that project is moving along. The last of the big FEMA-related infrastructure projects, or Ike-related infrastructure projects sponsored by FEMA. All right, so the research building expansion, 17E expansion, this is a 6-story building that will go adjacent to the existing building 17. This will provide new animal support space for us. That's sorely needed right now, so we're excited to get that underway in this next fiscal year. There is also some additional space there that can be used for laboratory build-out in the future. Dr. Jacobs tells me that we have laboratory space. It's not necessarily located. We don't have the right adjacencies yet. So we're working on that. And a portion of the solution to that may be to use a portion of this space in the future. So he's developing those plans as part of the overall research strategic plan. It's nice that we'll have this additional space to support research over the course of the coming years. And then these are just some early conceptions of what the education building might look like. You see the location here, which is just across the street from where we are now. Again, here's the Nursing and Health Professions School. Here's Levin Hall. This is where the new education building will be located. This is looking essentially from where we are now back from Levin Hall at the east face of the building. And so we'll hopefully begin construction sometime late next year. We're going to take this to the Board of Regents next month. It's one of the projects supported by the tuition revenue bonds. The Regents apparently want to take all of those projects all at once and approve all of them, get them on what's called the CIP list for the University of Texas system. We've pretty much thought about what should be in that building, how it should support modern education, everything from small study space, small group learning spaces, to additional simulation spaces, as well as large group learning. In fact, even places to do disaster simulations and training. So it's a pretty exciting set of concepts. I'm anxious to see it move forward now into design, and I think it's going to be a real boon to our educational programs, and also an opportunity, if we choose, to further grow enrollment in some of the programs because we'll have a little more space. So exciting development, I think, for the institution as we move forward in the next several years. All right, so I said I'd talk a little bit about the legislative session. This is just sort of a high-level view. Certainly, you know, every time we get through a legislative session, typically there's a sigh of relief, and that's followed by, oh man, I wish we would have done better. But that said, when we look at the results of this one, when we look at what Laura and Lauren and Ben Raymer were able to get the legislature to do for us, I'm very pleased. But just moving down this list, we asked for increased formula funding. That was a combined ask coming from higher educational institutions across the state, and we were successful on that front. That yields about $10 million additional dollars for us. We were concerned that the support that exists for our hospital might be cut back. That's happened in the past, and not only was it not cut back, they actually sustained the small, what had been previously considered perhaps a temporary increase that they had put in the last session. So very pleased to see that. I think many of you know that they provided a line item support, $8.2 million for that biocontainment care unit to be renovated and expanded and enhanced. So very pleased to see that. The $67.8 million tuition revenue bond to support the building of that education building. The CMC operations salary adjustments and supplemental appropriation, those essentially in order cover what we think will be the increased cost associated with providing care over the course of the next biennium. The salary adjustments, which again weren't originally in the budget but sorely needed, and so pleased that Dr. Linthicum and Mr. Livingston joined with Dr. Murray, facilitated by Lauren and Laura's work, and were successful in persuading the legislature this was an important step and important support for our people and for delivery of high quality care out in the units. And finally, the supplemental appropriation to support the additional cost of care that's been incurred over the current biennium. Campus carry, there's been a lot written about this. I'm sure there's a lot of opinions across our campus about what's appropriate. What ultimately emerged from the legislature is the opportunity for each campus to set its own rules to be approved by its Board of Regents as well as reviewed by the legislature. So the system is providing guidance on this. Some of our sister components have begun to put together some task forces. If we don't get any additional instruction from the system by the end of this fiscal year, by the end of August, I'll start to do that. That's my plan. Put together a task force of students, faculty, staff, and obviously security officials like representatives of our police force to begin to think about how we do this. We know we can't exempt the entire campus. We know we can exempt the hospital and the national lab because there's legislative intent language around those two pieces of our campus here in Galveston. And then it's going to be an exploration of what we think is appropriate and reasonable, what the Board of Regents will accept, and what the legislature will accept as we go forward. So more to come on that one. Again, I know there's a diversity of opinions, and as the Chancellor said, we'll make sure that we're compliant with the law, but also do the very best we can to secure the safety of our faculty, staff, students, patients, and other visitors to the campus. Finally, we were successful at the state level of getting some additional funding for graduate medical education. We've been worried for a number of years that we were going to be graduating more medical students from Texas medical schools than we had residency slots to support in the state. So this additional funding is designed to make sure that we have about 10% more in the number of residency slots than we do actually graduating students. So that's good. That means Texas is not spending a lot of money to educate doctors and then exporting them to other states. So that's a positive development, and we appreciate the legislature's support with that one. So again, is it perfect relative to what we were asking for? Absolutely not. But are we pleased? Is this a good outcome? From my perspective, yes. I just wanted you to be aware of that. All right, finances. A number of you have asked me about this, and some have said, what happened? We were doing so great. Suddenly, why are we so concerned about the budget? Well, we've known for a while that the next couple of years are going to be tough. We've got all of the Ike improvements, and those, remember, have a $1.2 billion value that are coming online. There's depreciation expense associated with those. And then we've got the depreciation expense of the other new facilities, the League City Hospital, the Jenny Seeley, that are coming online. And in addition, it's a short-term issue. We've got the expenses to open and start operations in those new facilities that precede the ability to generate revenue. So that makes the next couple of years a little tough, and we're projecting and have for some time some losses in those years. So we expect we'll end up with about a $3 million positive margin at the end of August this year. We're on track to do that. For 16, we're projecting about a $12 million loss. It's the first time we'll have suffered one of those in 6 or 7 years. And then again for 17, another loss before we move back to positive margins over the course of time. So again, a big hit from depreciation expenses. Those actually start to plateau about 2018 and then start to come down. And so our forecasts have been pretty accurate. We've done well with these. We continue to improve our forecasting systems to think about what financial success looks like. We knew that 16 was going to be a tough year. It will be. But we think we've got good plans. And I just wanted to say thank you to everybody for helping us develop a solid plan to achieve our financial outcomes that we'd like to achieve in the next year. And then continue to think about the next 5 or 6 years about how we do the best we can to generate good financial outcomes. When we do that, it helps support education and research. And so that's really what we're trying to do. We don't want to have to shrink the size of our programs. We want to continue to improve the quality of our programs, and we can't do that if we financially struggle. So no surprises. Everything's actually moving along as we thought. We're on plan. This next couple of years are going to be a little bit tougher. So I just want everybody to understand that. All right, so I said I'd come back, close with the road ahead, some of the things we're thinking about, priorities for the next year. And so remember, we've got the 4 pillars: people, values, strategic management and growth, and resources. So these are the major strategies and some of the major tactics associated with the people pillar. Improve talent acquisition. How many of you are satisfied with where we are with recruiting? Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay. So, I mean, we know, and one of the things I talk about when I talk to lay groups is that we get 380 to 400 job applications a day. And we have to treat those pretty much the same in terms of processing those. But among those are some jewels, and among those, honestly, are a number of people who aren't really qualified for the positions that they're applying for. And yet we have to process them all. So how do we work with our managers and supervisors to be able to quickly identify qualified people and then work to recruit them and bring them into the organization in the most efficient way? A large institution with 12,000 people and a lot of open positions, it's a challenge. We are making progress. I think Dr. McKinley is satisfied where we are relative to our plans, but he's also the first to acknowledge that we still have a lot of work to do. The one thing I wanted to ask those of you who are managers and supervisors is, number one, don't give up. And number two, please stay engaged with us as we think about how we can work with you to more efficiently identify qualified candidates for the positions that you have open. Both those coming from outside the institution, as well as make sure that we are allowing people inside the institution to look at positions that can advance their careers and their aspirations too. So more work to do on that front. Talent management, a lot of effort to think about how we, number one, help people understand how they contribute to the institution's success, and number two, how we do a much better job of helping people develop skills, relearn skills, enhance skills, acquire additional new skills that can help them be successful here. So we've talked a lot about my road ahead, one part, in terms of my contributions, my priorities with my job. The other part, what are my development opportunities? How do we roll that out? We're going to push that further into the institution in the next year. We want to make sure that we have, for every work unit, if we can do this by the end of next year, we're sure going to try an inventory of development opportunities for the people in that unit. Now, it won't be the inventory. It will be shorter initially than we want it to be, but it will be the first time we've actually done this across the institution, where we start thinking about the different sorts of development opportunities that serve our people well, serve the institution well. We start to think more effectively about how we budget time and money to support those development efforts. So a work in progress, but very important that we take this step over the course of the next year. We want to continue to work on internal communications. I think you can expect that we'll continue to modify the relay approach, spend some more time customizing it, again, based on the work unit needs, what best serves the communication needs of each individual work unit. We want that to happen in the next fiscal year also. Again, not the solution over the course of time, but moving us down the road. Value, top-tier service. We want to deliver top-tier service to everybody. We come here because we all want to be individually the best and collectively the best. But that manifests itself in a number of different forms. So improve the patient experience by addressing gaps in patient family-centered care. One of the things I know the health system is doing on this front is involving a lot more patients in our committees and our groups that are reviewing what we're doing and getting direct patient or family input into some of our efforts. I think that's very important, and certainly they do and are working to make that happen. Innovative curricula to advance competency-based education. I think we've got one project now in every school next year, right? That's based on moving competency-based educational efforts forward, so that's exciting. Where I think we're really among the leaders in the country. Everybody's talking about this, but not too many people are really doing it. So we're going to step out and take some baby steps, see what we can learn and accomplish, and looking forward to seeing that move forward. Assess customer satisfaction. We've started to do that. We want to take that feedback now and turn that around into plans that help us improve customer service in our institutional support areas. And then a big one for us, make sure that the health system and the physicians, the practice plan in particular here, on the same page relative to our quality enhancement, patient satisfaction enhancement, improvement efforts. And so continue to work with those two major groups to get us in the right place so that we're top tier in the country in terms of patient service and patient satisfaction. Streamline systems, ongoing effort. How many of us don't want to become more efficient? Well, a few of us probably. But we've got to make our systems more efficient. The Board of Regents are telling us this. The legislature is telling us this. We all know the funding streams in the future won't look like they have looked in the past. And so the burden is on us to think about how we look at everything we do and make it more efficient over the course of time. So a lot of efforts across the institution to enhance efficiency. Strategic management and growth, building programs of excellence. Two major areas of focus: research, a lot of work going on to better support faculty. Think about how we do that in terms of putting together proposals for grants, getting through the grant writing and grant submission process, making ourselves more competitive. And I think, Dr. Jacobs, based on at least the indicators I've seen, we're going to see an increase in grant funding coming this year to the institution. perhaps, hopefully, it looks like that, early indications. And it looks like some of the efforts that have already been put in place are working. So that's great. Nice to see. We want that to continue as we go forward. We continue to emphasize certain clinical service lines based on the demand that's out there in our primary and secondary service areas. Everything from primary care, expanding access to primary care, to expanding access to some very precise subspecialty services that aren't otherwise covered by institutions in our service area. So a lot of work on this front too. Optimizing our competitive position. This is more thinking about what we need to look like in the future. Many of you have asked me, are we doing anything with telehealth? Yeah, a lot, and beyond what we're doing in CMC. Thinking about new technologies, thinking about applications that can be developed to go on our smartphones. Extending ourselves to other hospitals that might want to use a telehealth connection as an opportunity for affiliation. So a lot of work occurring on this front. Population health. What is it going to take for us to be competitive? Dr. Hankins and his faculty, people in our women's care service lines have committed to do some work with OB and doing bundled pricing there. That's a first major step in our market towards that population health management, that aspect of population health management. So excited to see that, and again, we're in the lead on that particular front. So more work along those lines as we go forward. Resources, optimizing our financial management and forecasting systems. You saw that roll-up forecast for 6 years. Again, we're satisfied that that's pretty accurate right now, but we think we can make it more accurate, and we can drive that accuracy down to the subunit level so that departments in the medical school that have a clinical practice can have a higher level of comfort with the forecast for demand for their services, how they meet those demands, which gives them a better opportunity to work with faculty to make sure that we have the right coverage, as well as the opportunities for faculty to pursue academic interests. The enterprise business intelligence, enhancing our analytics so that we can not only look at populations of patients to think about how we approach payers, but so that we can engage more in outcomes research, so that we can look at things like health disparities and think about how we can intervene more effectively so we can improve health in populations over the course of time. And of course, as I mentioned before, we have to optimize our revenue streams. They're changing. So we need to shift among them. We need to focus in the right places. We need to change some things so we can continue to secure the resources that are necessary to support our mission work. So I don't think any of these things that are in these plans are a surprise to you. A lot of these themes have remained constant over the past several years, but hopefully you've seen us advance with the tactics in each of the years as we check things off our list and move on and advance our efforts in each of the goals areas. So happy to discuss those with anybody in further detail. Come to Department Work Unit, talk more about that. We have strategic plans and scorecards at the level of the academic enterprise, the health system, and also the institutional support areas. Those are available. And so there's a lot of information out there. If you have questions or concerns about priorities for the institution, please take a look at those, and then I'm happy to sit down with you or anybody else and go through those questions and concerns related to the plans. All right, finally, Chancellor McRaven was here. He was here last week, July 2nd, and it was a very successful visit. He, I think, really enjoyed his time. Mrs. McRaven accompanied him. He heard presentations about our mission work, about our plans, about successes, about challenges, and then took a tour of the campus. And just as he was preparing to leave, we were walking down the hall in the John Seeley Hospital, and he turned to me and he said, "Now I understand why everyone says UTMB is such a special place." So I think he got it. So yeah, happy to see that. He relayed some of his thoughts about what the plans for the UT system should look like. Talked about his process for moving those plans forward, bringing them up to date. Wanted some more information from us about how we do planning, how we came to some of the conclusions that we've come to in the past. And so we'll certainly be engaging with him and his staff as he develops that next iteration of plans for the UT system. So, I typically close with this slide. As I said at the outset, there's great work occurring here every day. I wish I had the opportunity to know what everybody is doing. I'm constantly amazed when I hear individual stories or stories about work units. I got a chance to tour with Dr. Murray to some of the CMC units, the pharmacy, the main administrative headquarters, the Estelle unit, and the Walls unit, and it was just incredible. The level of care that's provided under very challenging circumstances. And I was so impressed at the work that our people are doing, at least in those units, and I think that pretty much is true across all the CMC units as we go forward. So just great stories. Again, I think people come here because we want to be the best. We want to be part of something that's the best. That's our goal. That's what our plans are designed to get us to over the course of time. It's not easy. In some cases, the rug is constantly being pulled from under our feet relative to the way things have been versus what they will be in the future. But that's just part of being in healthcare, being in education, being in research. And certainly we have the collective intelligence here. We're a smart group to think through that and I think take on those challenges as effectively as any place like us in the country and move forward and continue to be successful over the course of time. So thanks to everybody for allowing us to be successful. Thanks for being here today. And again, if you want to talk more about our plans, I'm very happy to do that. Questions? Yes, ma'am.
January, Texas state legislators have enacted the gun control new law. How is it going to affect us, and how can we ensure safety of our patients and faculty and staff and all that?
The open carry aspect of the new legislative new laws, doesn't apply to our campuses. The campus carry piece that I was describing earlier is a concern for us. So again, the UT system wants to come up with a system-wide approach. It will be based on us coming together as an institution and thinking about what we think should be exempted from the right. People should not be able to bring their weapons into one of our facilities. We know the hospital, our hospitals will be exempted. Certainly extensions of the hospital into our outpatient clinics will likely be exempted. We know the national lab will be exempted, legislative intent stated there. What else? Where are there potential vulnerabilities? Where would there be danger from somebody having a weapon? And so we just need to think through that. Again, we'll have system guidance. If I don't hear anything else from the system, we will put together a task force here at the beginning of the fiscal year to help us begin to process our thoughts about campus carry. And so can't exactly describe the course to you, but we're going to do everything we can to comply with the law, but make sure that our people and the visitors to our campus are safe.
Kelly, I'm a new member of the Employee Advisory Council, and I have a question. The Employee Advisory Council has received quite a few concerns about revised holiday schedules for those working in UTMB clinics. Can you address?
Yeah, and I apologize for that. I think that's probably my fault. A lot of forces at play. We've heard a lot from patients over the past several years that they want us to be open, particularly during the Christmas holidays, because they have time off from work and they have the end of the year deductibles that are coming into play. They have money to spend before they have to pay their deductible in the following year. Many fiscal years start on January 1st. And of course, we have state-mandated holidays. There are really four. Well, more than that, but Thanksgiving, the day after Thanksgiving, Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, and the day after are state-designated holidays. So we're not going to have the clinics or anything else open then. However, we know we need to continue our inpatient operations. There's a 24/7, 365 for those. And so what we've been trying to figure out how to do is how can we serve a number of patients who will need inpatient care. They desire to get it, particularly at the end of the year. We don't want to stop processing their inpatient care because of holidays. And so we've been working with the UT system, legal folks, some representatives in Austin, some of our HR folks. Can we, for some of the services that are located in outpatient clinics that support inpatient delivery of care and keep that care moving, can we open those at least for a portion of those holidays so we can process those patients and keep them moving? Because that's what we get paid to do, that's what patients expect, and it also impacts the quality of care if we delay their care. And so we're still working through the machinations of that. I specifically asked Ms. McGrew to think about, okay, what are those critical support functions? Which ones should remain open, particularly if they're located in clinics that are otherwise closed? And what's the best way to staff those functions during holiday periods? We rushed to get out the holiday schedule, and so what we did is we sent it out and we put a star by some of those days, more to come. But I think in general, I just didn't do a very good job of explaining what sort of communication we should put out there. So I apologize for that. We'll sort that out. But I know my wife asked me yesterday, she said, is my clinic going to be open on Christmas Eve? She's not here, by the way. She's seeing patients. But I said, no. You know, as far as I know, the Bay Colony Women's Clinic does not support inpatient care. Dr. Hankins, is that right? No, we do. You do? Okay. Well, then I'm in trouble with Tanya. But I told her, you know, unless you're directly engaged in providing a service, like, for example, a number of our patients require semi-emergent echocardiography. Some of our patients require certain surgical support, like a vascular lab study. And so some of those services need to be open at least for a portion of a day to process inpatient care. So those are the sorts of things we want to do. Dr. Hankins will have to educate me later about what the Bay Colony Women's Clinic does, but that's okay. I learn something every day. So anyway, that's our approach. And again, I apologize for the confusion. We'll sort that out and come out with a more detailed schedule. For most of us, particularly those that are involved in clinics, those state-designated holidays are sacrosanct. We won't ask anybody to work who's not supporting that inpatient care. So again, I apologize for the confusion. Other questions? Oh, sure.
I don't know if this is on. Is this on? Okay. Another question was submitted to the Employee Advisory Council. Why does Victory Lakes Park and Ride only pick up in front of Rebecca Sealy and only drop off on Harborside Drive? Why can't drop-offs and pickups be at the same location? Also, thanks for the added buses. I started riding again, and it really has helped us save on gas. Single moms really love it.
Oh, okay. Mike Schreiner, can you help me with that one? Do you have an answer for that one?
First of all, we're glad you like the new buses, added buses. We really should be picking up and dropping off at the same spot, so let me double check on that.
Okay.
But as far as I know, it should be picking up and dropping off there in front of the John Sealy Hospital.
Okay, so more to come on that one.
We'll
see if
follow up on that.
We'll follow up on that. Okay, thank you very much, Tilly. Thank you for that one. Anybody else? Mary.
Dr. Callender, another EAC question that came in. Is there a long-term plan to ensure an adequate number of patients for residency training?
Oh, yeah. You know, and in fact, we've talked about this, and please help me spread the word. You know, one of the reasons we were so interested in Angleton Danbury is because it represents a delivery setting that otherwise is not represented within our system. So we've got the tertiary quaternary capabilities of the Jenny Sealy, John Sealy complex. We've got the soon-to-come capabilities at League City, which we see as a community plus level of care. So some high-level specialty care there, but a lot of routine stuff, again, designed to serve the short stay inpatient. And then we've got Angleton Danbury, which is that community setting that's supported by local physicians and caregivers in a rural/suburban community that's within 50 miles of a major urban center. Many of our graduates will practice in settings like Angleton Danbury. So, and to the extent that our mission is to come up with new models and approaches of care for all sorts of delivery contexts and situations, it makes sense to have that sort of constellation of facilities. So that's what we're trying to do. And of course, the idea is that we will grow the number of patients, thinking ahead to population health management. You know, how many do we need as a fully integrated system, not only to make the system and the risk pools work, but to make sure that we have the right number to train our students and residents and fellows of all types about how they should function so they get an adequate educational experience. So we continue to think about that, trying to make sure that we match the size of our educational programs to our clinical enterprise. When we don't have enough capacity within our system, we look outside. That's why we have a number of educational affiliations. And we think that's a good thing. We think it's good to have affiliations with outside institutions so students get an opportunity to see other sorts of approaches to care delivery. So yes, bottom line is we want to grow the number of patient encounters so that we can actually grow enrollments and better serve Texas over the course of time. Thank you. Any others? We'll make this the last one if anybody has one.
We have another one from the EAC.
Okay.
What is the financial impact of the health promotion program, and are we receiving a positive return on investment?
Gerald, if he's still here, can help me with that. You know, I don't think we think about it so much from a strict calculation of a financial return on investment. There has been a tremendous amount of work actually done looking at the health of employee populations and the impact on productivity. The healthier a group of employees is, the higher level of productivity, and typically the more likely the organization is to be successful. So the UT system understands that very well. Much of what we do is supported by the UT system. What we do mirrors what happens across the system, because the risk of employee health, financial risk anyway, are largely borne by the system and the legislature. So I think the system believes, we believe, there is a return on investment. We don't take time to calculate it for each individual, but we certainly think about it in terms of optimizing productivity and also optimizing the mental health of our employees. If we're not healthy, we're less likely to be happy with our work, be dissatisfied, and that not only impacts us, but people around us. Gerald, thoughts?
Very good points, and I really do appreciate the question. I think one of the areas that we've really made some strides over the last few years is that we've added culture really as an operational goal, and we feel like that we have expanded our culture of wellness, culture of health, especially as our employees have become more geographically dispersed, and we've opened new clinics and that sort of thing. And so we're actually very proud of our efforts of being able to have a wellness presence in a number of locations. And we do that through a cadre of wellness champions. Those are actually employees that volunteer to be our communication, our grassroots support in their particular clinics and locations. We have over 180 of those individuals scattered across the state of Texas. We're very proud to say that we have 75% of the correctional managed care locations supported. All of the regional maternal child health programs are supported with wellness champions, as are many of the departments and locations here on campus. And that really helps us get people that may not participate, maybe those who would not enter into programs, more involved. One of the best examples is what we celebrated with us winning the Physical Activity Challenge this year. We have had more participation in our health assessment and in our programs than ever before. And so we feel like we're set up well for the future. We know that we need to do more from quantifying that return on investment, and I think we can put some measures in place to be able to demonstrate that.
Great, thank you. All right, and since we won the trophy, Gerald has said it's okay for me to offer cookies today. So on your way out, everybody can have one cookie, everything in moderation. Thank you very much. Stay cool.
UTMB Health, working together to work wonders.